like I said earlier, my attempt has been to how do we build organization where people are at the center, right? It's not so much. I was not thinking about democracy or those words. And all the previous stories, what you've heard, is proven, executed, examples, right? Whether it is Fape or Sahaj, or what she spoke about from her clients. So, but what I'm probably going to speak about is some of my attempts, or rather some of the principles with which I sort of attempted building this, right? And many of these principles are sort of inspired from multiple sources, like the Semco style, the Ricardo Semco work I read about almost like 20 years back, and then 2 years back I worked with these people to understand the program. Also Robert Keegan's adult learning, some of those principles, right? Many caveats to this. What I mean to say is that what I've been working is in part of large organizations, large global groups in the recent years. So even though I'm the head of the business or head of that one business unit in the country, I am still a cog in the wheel of a very large wheel, right? So therefore, your influence is sort of it's really relatively limited, right? So as a business, we are the company I represent is called Digitas, which is part of a larger group called Publicis, a global marketing and technology services company. What we offer in the current market is there is a business strategy consulting transformation roadmap. That particular team doesn't come under me. Then there is, creative media, sales service, marketing automation, digital experience, analytics, technology engineering. I also have a fairly large 250 member, which does global engineering and delivery team for our outside India clients. But this self-management team, which I was trying to sort of implement, was to pilot with one team, right? We had certain ambition in the beginning. Like you see a lot of people talk about, great place to work certification. It's become like a sort of certification kind of thing, right? But I was trying to see whether what is it I can create something which is very appealing to the individual, right? It's something, it has to be very universal. So what I said that, like, before we even talk about great place to work, let's be known for great work and great people to work with. So my belief was that it is people and the work that make places. So it's not, you're not running behind great place to work certification, but internally let's be known for great work and great people to work with. Right? So this was sort of set as an ambition for the people, and therefore it comes to business KPIs, cultural KPIs, professional growth, personal growth, and things like that. Now, if I have to summarize my belief in one line as to, from an organization context, is that what I say is professional is personal. And I'll speak about what I mean by that, right? So the fundamental premise is that, so like I said, this was a presentation to my teams to change their perspective. So the fundamental premise is that work is intensely personal. How much ever we say that professional is different, personal is different, the fact of the matter is that it is the same person who is coming to office and the same person who is at home, right? So if anyone tells you that professional is different, personal is different, it's a big lie, right? It's a myth. While it might be true, say that, okay, we can keep your personal matters and professional matters separate, which is fine. But reality is that we are the same person, right? We all experience pain, self-doubt, acceleration, shame, insecurity, meaning, all that at work. This goes every day in all of our minds, right? Work is meaningful because it gives meaning to people's lives. So meaning typically comes from three things. One is developing oneself, because you need to have a sort of a growth in our lives, right? When I say growth, I'm not talking about designation, salaries and all that, but our ability to deal with a complex situation, our ability to deal with a complex relationship, right? So there is growth in that. Creating something excellent and enduring because we all have our own trade. Like somebody's a creative guy, somebody's a coder, somebody's a painter, right? There is certain pride that comes from that, right? And we all are social animals, so there is a certain meaning or purpose that comes from when we help others, right? In fact, there is this interesting story which Alain Bottom said. I don't know how many of you noticed. There's a lot of small kids, when they basically want to come and serve you, saying that, for example, when they say, okay, can I serve you food? When I used to go home to my hometown, my niece used to come and say that. She was like 4-year-old. Say, "Ma'am, what can I serve you? A tea or coffee?" Right? This is like a joke, like a fun thing, no? But the need to serve is very inherent in all human beings, right? And that it's grossly underestimated according to me. So this is where meaning comes. All of us have an inherent need to feel accomplished and grow, because we all feel we want to take up a challenge, to feel immersed and solve it or complete it. So this is what psychologists call a state of flow. A state of flow is when we are at best. We are very, very diverse. As an organization, when we are coming together, we all are wired differently. All of us are at different emotional and maturity levels. We also see our worlds in a very, very differently, because I keep saying this, like, it's not that one world. There's actually 8.3 billion worlds, because our world is in our head, right? The way I see the world is not the way you see your world, right? That is not exactly the reality, right? So the important thing, the thing is that because we see our worlds differently, we react also differently to different external realities. But the organization is that we are here because we all of us have some certain creative abilities, certain skills. We are here to to express that, find fulfillment, and also earn with pride. The organization is just the context. So this is the biggest perspective shift I tried changing. I've been trying to do that over the years. Try seeing organization as a context for your people or for your development, right? That completely, if you're able to really internalize that, it completely changes everything. Because then you're no more seeing it as a difficult thing, coming and doing work and things like that. Of course, you're doing that. There will be repetitive tasks and all that. But if you're able to change the perspective to see organization as a context for human development, so this was the largest perspective, the most deeper perspective change which I attempted, and I continue to do that when I speak to my people, right? And because our world models are different, and we are all on WAP, because we all are WAP, that's what I feel, right? Conflicts will happen, but the thing is that look at conflict and pain as an opportunity to move to a different level of being, right? And the fact that we are capable, we can move to that a different level of being. And it's a matter of recognizing, pausing, and reflecting. So if you look at the way what I've tried to work with people is to make everyone sort of be self-aware, pause, reflect, and then understand how do we behave, and how do we react to situations, how do we behave, right? So if you are in alignment with some of the fundamental human truths, is there a better way to work? So this is the question which I saw through at this. So for all what I was said, I'm assuming all of us sitting in this room are also in alignment with those fundamental truths, right? If those fundamental truths, if everyone in the organization is sort of aligned, then is there a different way of to work? And that's how sort of I then brought in the self-managed team construct, which whatever I learned from Semco and right. And so some of these things all of you will be familiar with. So typical self-managed teams are normally are value focused versus hierarchy focused. So right, a team which is a client based on a client or a product or a service or a geography. But in our business context, we said we will call it a client. A typical self-managed team, because a typical client team will have business managers, account managers, creative people, copywriters, technology. If there's a business which has got technology also, then there's also technology team, all that, right? So in our business, we said, let's sort of try and organize this as a client cell. And then I sort of defined, about 8 or 9 principles of, of what a client cell operating principles. So, that it is a collective of skills and not titles. All skills that is needed for a business within that team. Fluid teams, centered around a business purpose. Because titles can typically make so what happens in most of organizations, okay, let me take an example of, a copywriter. So sometimes there's a trainee copywriter, there's a junior copywriter, there's a senior copywriter, so there's a creative supervisor. I said, let's trash all that, right? Because a particular client may not need that kind of hierarchy to deliver value for that client, right? Or it could be junior developer, senior developer, architect, and it could be in different teams, like different kind of structures, right? So the idea was to, knock off titles so that we are there's no, we're not confining to a set of boundaries. A sort of community, it's just the community and hierarchies don't matter. So because once you form a sort of a client cell, and they say that then you forget all your hierarchy, all your titles and hierarchies, right? It has to be a learning community based on equality. If you build pyramids, we get mummies. I learned that from Rajesh. Then each team is sort of led by a lead for an intra-team collaboration, sort of a representative. So these are basically principles which how do we sort of build the team. We should have an absolute clarity on clients' objectives for this year. So for example, in our business context, let us say Vodafone is our client. So Vodafone's creative media and marketing is what we are managing. So we should know that client cell team should very clearly understand, about Vodafone, the category information, telecom information, competitive intelligence, who are all the stakeholders on the client side, the CMO, head of sales, all that, right? And all sort of well documented. This you find in a typical marketing services agency. You find this a huge gap. Also has clarity on agencies, that is our ambition for the client, right? Because we have our own revenue plans. We want to say that, we want to win awards on this client. We also want to say that, okay, today I'm doing creative, but tomorrow I also want to be a technology partner to them. So that clarity has to be there. Has team goals and success and failure is shared and risk and rewards is socialized. So we didn't want to sort of evaluate only individuals. Even if one individual in one particular team fails, the whole team fails. Teams know each other well and their strengths and weaknesses. So this is again very important, because one of the beliefs, like I said in the beginning, I said, talk about development, right? If you're talking about development, then your sort of individual in self journey has to happen, right? I can't do work in a team if I don't know the other person very well, right? But if you don't know you can't know the other person very well unless you know yourself very well. So therefore, there has to be an inward journey to you. So when I say organization is a context for human development, you sort of map that to an individual's own personal growth also, right? And I like this statement from Abraham Lincoln, which says, I don't like that person. Normally what happens in organizations is that I don't like that man, so let me not work with him. I'll try to avoid. So I'm saying the shift I wanted is that I don't like that person, but I really need to get to know him better, right? Then meet, track, and challenge, typical agile. Schedule huddles, daily once in days. Anyone in the team can sort of take up the lead and do these hurdles. And Kumble versus Dhoni, I think this is a story I heard from Semco, if I'm not mistaken, right? So apparently when Kumble was the captain, and when team has to do daily practice, if someone comes late, Kumble said, you'll have to pay fine, right? And when Dhoni became the captain, he changed the rule. He said, if Unny comes late, rest of you have to pay the fine, right? So, sort of became collective responsibility, right? And so therefore we sort of, client cell operating principles sort of summarized. Then I asked this question, okay, so what behaviors will sort of aid us in this journey, right? So these are a few things which I sort of saying that. I said, bring these two important questions every day to life, right? Which is basically, How do I want to spend my days? Optimize for your time. Who am I right now, and is that the person I want to be? This is a question ask yourself every day, right? Then this is again, connecting back to that pause and reflect, right? Because again, it's about personal growth. Probe to find the whys. Problems are often manifestation. Keep asking the question. Probe everyone, bosses, peers, reportees, doesn't matter. While addressing issues, goal is not to win the argument, but solving a problem. Right? This again will happen. And if people have worked on conflicts, you'll always see that there is an argument happens, and the effort is to, I need to win. Right? This is my argument. Right? Effort is to find the best answer, not the best answer you have. Right? Again, this is an important thing. Right? Worry about how fast you're learning and not about how good are you. This is something which I think if I'm not mistaken, I heard it from Ray Dalio's principles. Right? Keep alive the question how I might be wrong. Probing and questioning is not a judgment, because the conventional belief or the tendency is that feedback is often a judgment, right? Because the reason I wanted to go a little deeper in many of these things was, or rather trying to go deeper, because it all sort of maps back to what kind of people who are, what kind of emotions are driving us, which is why I keep harping back to, inward journey and self-awareness becomes so important. Listen to understand and not to reply. This again, a lot of us probably, resonate with this. We are often wired to build answers in our head. Like somebody is asking a question, before even completing that question, right? Our mind is already setting up what is the answer I need to give. All right, and I'm saying all of us would have gone through this, right? So listen to understand and not to reply. Lift your head from local neighborhood. So this always happens in large organizations, right? Because there is a creative team, there's a technology team, there is a business team, there is a writers team. So what I've been trying to tell is that don't think again, not get confined by what your title is. You may be an art director, or account executive, or a content writer, but remember you're a business person, part of a group of business people running this business. Get that thought in your mind. Be easy to work with. No one wants friction. And there's some things which I picked up from the MIT study, that 3 markers of group intelligence, which is basically social sensitivity, conversation tone talking, and proportion of women in the group. And ensure that we some sort of common understanding, clarity, clear understanding of each other's roles and skills, building empathy, and also psychological safety and sort of pro-social service. So this is sort of, if you look at this, sort of the fundamental principles or fundamental premises. We already said that. I was trying to say that, okay, these are sort of behaviors which you can try and cultivate in this. I was not expecting all this to happen on day one. Even though it started about few months back, I think the journey has been still very, very small. It has hardly moved, because obviously there was a lot of resistance. And what does success mean? Again, for our business context, we said internal feedback from team members, client feedback, achieving our ambition revenues. So all this feels good. So is this practical? So this is what I was, again, bringing back to, pause and reflection. So if you're able to build a culture of, that you recognize his pain, and there is a reflection, and there is a supportive community. And the supportive community in the context of the whole organization itself, right? And that sort of progress. And we said, okay, we will do little steps every day consciously and consistently. And then some bit of toolkit, which is, RASI, social contract, which we already had experienced it in the morning. Set aside 10 minutes at the end of every meeting to review the social contracts, check-ins. There were a few things which is sort of as a toolkit for the teams, which is made available. Some on ways of retrospective, like group reflection on activities, events, and projects. So I think there are different formats of retrospective. So one can take any one of this. What went well, what didn't go, or start, stop, continue. In fact, I really like this mad, sad, and glad, which is basically to understand the emotional analysis. And from a learning analysis perspective, what did you like, what you learned, what lacked, what longed for, right? So this a bit of toolkit was made available for the team, and a bit of theoretical thing on psychological safety, because a lot of time this question comes on psychological safety. Like if you give a lot of psychological safety, will it inefficiencies and capability issues sort of crop in? So we basically say that it has to be a sort of balancing thing, right? And there was a bit of questions, FAQs. Does this mean that there is no account lead? So this is very specific to our business. Yeah, so that's it. So I was saying that get this started. When we will reach, where will we don't know. But I like this saying, destination is never a place, but a new way of seeing things. And there was a interesting TED talk which sort of I played for the team. So this is sort of broadly what we sort of in this slides, what I've sort of attempted was to sort of put a structure to some of my beliefs. Some of those things which has been working, some not working or not started, but the kind of culture and way of working which we attempted is what it is.